So this video is for the back of your angles and triangles notes. And if we remember from the front, we still want to remember that all three angles are going to add up to 180 degrees in any triangle. But for this first one, I see that I have x's here, and I still want to find the missing angles. So I still want to know what the measure of this angle is and what the measure of this angle is. I'll fill them in over here. So to be able to do that, I have to solve for x. So remember, our triangle sum theorem says that all three angles are going to add up to 180. So I'm just going to take all three angles. 38 is angle A, x is angle C, and x plus 2 is angle B. When I add all those up, I know that has to equal 180. So now I have to solve this equation. So I have x's on the same side. I am not going to subtract x from both. Remember, I have to just, if I'm going to subtract anything from both sides, I have to do it on both sides of this line, of the equal sign. So I'm just going to add these two together. So 38 plus 2x plus 2 equals 180. Now I'm also going to combine these like terms. 38 plus 2 is 40. So 2x plus 40 equals 180. Now I can subtract 40 from both sides of this line. So I get 2x equals 140. And I'm running out of room, so I'm just going to move it over to here. So 2x equals 140. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So x equals 70. Now that x, that is not an angle measure. That's just x. So now I have to plug that back in to both of these. So this right here is going to be 70 plus 2. So that's 72 degrees. That's angle B. And then this one is just x, so I would just plug in the 70, and that's going to be angle C. So you have to take that x and plug it in wherever it goes. But you start off by adding them all up to 180. And if you're having trouble with this piece right here, if you're not sure how to solve equations for x, if you have trouble with that, then just ask me. I can give you some extra practice, or we can go over it together, or I can one-on-one do some problems with you. But there will be a few on this test where you're going to have to solve for x, so make sure you're pretty comfortable in doing that. This next problem here has x, y, and z. I don't think that we actually have to solve for those like the last one with an equation. We should be able to solve for these kind of like on the front, but it's a little bit of a tricky picture. So I can see here to find x, I know that this angle is 39 and this angle is 28, so I can just subtract from 180 to get that x. And that's going to be 113 degrees. And now I need to use that to find y. So x and y here form this line. So to find y, I'm going to take 180 minus the x that I just found to give me y, which will be 67 degrees. And now z, I have to use the y I just found. I'm going to take 180 minus 64 minus y, which is 67. And that gives me 49 degrees for z. So the reason why this one was a little complicated is because you couldn't start off solving for z, or you couldn't start off solving for y. You had to start with x, and then use that to find y, and then use that to find z. So sometimes when you see these pictures, you can't just start wherever you want. You have to start with what they give you. Like this next one. This next problem has a lot going on. Okay, and I know there's an extra slide here to the right that's blank. If you need to put some of the work over there, that's totally fine. And I might put some work there too if I run out of room. But I can see there's a lot happening here. I have 3 triangles, 1, 2, 3. I have a line going through the middle there. And I want to find 5 angles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are the 5 angles I want. Okay, and I can't just start off by finding angle 1, unfortunately. I don't know how to find angle 1. So I would need to find this to find angle 1. So you can start wherever you think you should start. So what jumps out to me right away is angle 4. When I see these two right here, I can see that they make a line. So to get angle 4, I'm just going to take 180 minus 72, and that gives me 108. So I can see that 4 is 108 degrees. And again, that's just one that jumped out to me. That's the first thing I saw when I looked here. So that's the one that I did. Okay. Now I can also see that 72, this is going to be a vertical angle. So I know that angle in there is going to be the same. So that's going to be 72. So I just filled that in. Over here, I can see that these two angles form a line. So to get this angle here, I'm going to take 180 minus 140, and that gives me 40 degrees inside there. And this kind of bluish gray color, I'm going to do for all the angles that we don't need to fill in down here. It's just information that we need to know. So now to find angle 5, I can take 180 minus 72 minus 40, and I can see that angle 5 is going to be 68 degrees. So we did angle 4 in red and angle 5 in green. Okay, now let's see, I'm going to come over here to this 135. Okay, I know this would be 135 because they're vertical, so they're across from each other. And so to find angle 2, let's see, we'll do that in purple. To find angle 2, I'm going to take 180 minus 135, which gives me 45 degrees for angle 2. And the reason why I could do that is because I can see that these two form a line there. So they're going to equal 180. And now that angle 2 is 45, that means this one in here is also 45, because it's across from angle 2. It's vertical with angle 2, I should say. So those are both 45. So now to find angle 3, which, let's see what color. How about orange? Angle 3 here, I can take 180 minus 45 minus 72. And angle 3 is going to be 63 degrees. And now we're down to angle 1. Let's see. Well, first of all, I would need to find this angle here. So to do that, I'm going to take 180 minus 60 minus 45. The 60 is given to me and 2 is 45. And that gives me 75 degrees there for this angle. And now for angle 1, we'll make it pink. And I can take 180 minus 75, which gives me 105 degrees there. And the reason why I could do that is because they make a line. So a lot of the time you are subtracting from 180 degrees. And I know this picture is kind of crazy, but hopefully you can follow it with all the colors. But if they make a line, you're going to subtract from 180, and if they're all three are in a triangle, you're going to subtract from 180. So most of the time you're subtracting from 180. The only time you're not is when you have vertical angles. So when you have angles here, like 2 and 45, or here, they're both 135, over here, they're both 72, and this would be, they'd both be 108. We didn't need this one down here, so I didn't write it in there. But anytime you have lines crossing like this, the angles across from them will be congruent. Okay? So I know that this picture is a little complicated, but there's tons of practice in the crate that has some more difficult problems like this, especially if you want to look at finding angles. Practice number 2, I made those problems a little bit more difficult, but you definitely want to make sure you're doing some extra practice before you go to take this test. If you have any questions or you need any help, just ask. I will be here.